The following is a presentation of iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
Live tonight from the Daytona International Speedway, LSRTV. Happy to say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to our continuing coverage of the Superspeedway Cup Series Season 15 Championship on your home for sim racing and iRacing Live. And we're happy to be with you tonight once more from the World Center of Racing in Daytona Beach, Florida, as we continue into the 9th race on this 2017 campaign. And we're happy that you're spending your Friday evening with us. As always, topside myself, Evan Pasoko, joined by Rachel Whiteford in the LSRTV broadcast booth. And the lovely and talented Cisco Scarbosa is downstairs, twisted and tweaking at aisles that are bringing us to you this evening. And we would be remiss to not start tonight's race off by mentioning that the streak, Rachel, continues through Josh Ball's win 1 week ago from Talladega. We have now seen 8 different races and 8 different drivers head to victory lane, and the question remains, as it was last week, can that streak continue, or do we see for the first time this year somebody already with a win get a second trip to victory lane, and what would add some critical bonus points come the playoffs?
Certainly will, Evan, and it's going to be a fantastic conclusion to this regular season we're rapidly coming up on, but to have so many winners in so many races, it's completely blown open. We have no idea who's going to do well, who's going to do badly. What we can say, this is shaping up to one of the most competitive seasons we've seen yet in Superspeedway Cup history.
After tonight's event, we will head back to Talladega in 1 week's time for a non-points event. And should note as well, I said that we're 8 for 8. If you want to count all the non-points events we've had this season, we're 11 different winners at 11 different races. But the All-Star race is at Talladega. That one's going to be next week right here on LSRTV at iRacing Live. We'll have the All-Star Open and the All-Star race, and you are not going to want to miss that one. And after that, we will head forward into the final 4 weeks of this regular season. But it has been impressive with all those individual race winners, and that has made a major effect on our playoff picture. Into tonight, the drivers with wins: Passini from the top to Jorgensen, Chaburko, Monsivice, Coleman, and Merchant. The top 6 in the championship are locked in with those wins. Now, we also have had Jason Altmans and Josh Ball win races this season. They are not in the playoff grid at the moment because they are not currently sitting in the top 25 in the championship. Josh Ball is 33rd and Jason Altmans is in 37th. It is not impossible for those drivers to be able to overcome those limits. And when we spoke with Josh Ball a week ago, he said that he'd make a considered effort to be here week in and week out to get the points. Altmans is not here tonight, so he may not get an opportunity to use that win. That means more good luck for the likes of Tiller, Watford, Flagg, Holloway, Rittenauer, and Brown, who at the moment are your drivers in the championship picture based on points. And again, even if you're not on the screen showing the top 15 right now, Rachel, if you're at the top 25, you can get a win. You jump right up on that thing. So Preet's there, close out of points. Berger is, Servant is as well. But this championship is not just exclusive to those drivers. Really got to consider everybody a threat.
Yeah, they certainly do, and there's going to be a lot of threat coming up in these races. Will this be the first time we see our first repeat winner? I think we're kind of running out of people who are going to win races this season, so it probably will be. But we have a smaller field tonight, Evan, and we have, I think, around 28 drivers total. That's going to make things a little bit more different. I think we've had some very big fields recently. This could be a greener race. In fact, I'm putting some money on it being a greener race. I think we're going to see a lot more long runs in this one, which could lead to some of the old warhorses charging to the front.
Well, and talking about that, we should also note that before we came on tonight, there were X amount of drivers locked into this. This is technically tonight's A main event. There were X amount of drivers locked into the main event, but they just wrapped up with a B main a little bit earlier on, which marked up the qualified positions as far as who would be allowed in this race from about the 11th on back, or wherever that cutoff was. So for about 2/3 of this field, I think it's safe to say they've already had about 30 minutes of on-track action here at Daytona, and we'll see if maybe that gives them any sort of an advantage at all, maybe getting up and being crisp off of the start of this one as we work through tonight's 100 minutes of action from Daytona. But as we get set to drop the American Ethanol green flag, as always, let's head trackside and take a look at your LSRTV starting grid for race number 9. And the Drive for Autism Pole Award tonight going to go to Mr. Daytona, Rodney Wofford, going to qualify on the pole position tonight with a 48.359 by 1/1000th. Second holds off Mark Jorgensen Jr., who will roll for the outside of the front row in second. Seth the Virgin gets started tonight in third spot. He'll be accompanied by consistently good qualifier Ray Rittenauer the second, who will roll off at fourth. Rod Flag just behind starts this one, P5.
On the outside of row number 3, Chris Bassini there joining Rod Flag on row number 3. Paul Savant and Harry Tiller, row number 4 there with Brandon Chaburko and Michael Cozy Jr. rounding out your top 10 on row 5.
Continuing through, Scott Warren will start tonight in 11th position. Gary Champion was very good in the practice session, P2 on the speed charts. He'll find himself in 12th come qualifying. Josh Ball, winner from a week ago with the unlucky number 13 starting spot tonight. Dan Harrington joins him to the outside of row number 7, and Spencer Preet is 15th.
Behind him, it's Glenn Hedrick and Travis Brown there in 16th and 17th place, with Brandon Cruz Montevice up in 18th. Chris Patton, first in practice. He qualified down in 19th. Not great solo car speed, but this shows great things for his drafting ability, so watch for him to go to the front. We've got Andrew Berger in 20th.
Only 3 other drivers did take a time to qualify. It'll be 21st position for Justin Levine, Richard Reagan Jr., who will roll tonight from 22nd, and Daniel Holloway in 23rd. It's all the drivers that take a time at a queue. Provisionals to round out the rest of the field. It'll be Tommy Hall in 24th position. Ramon Evans slated for P25, not currently on the racetrack. Jimmy Coleman will start tonight in 26th position. Frank Basilia slated for 27th. He as well is not currently on the grid. And then at the back of the pack, the number 28 starting spot tonight belongs to Mike Thiel. That's a look top to bottom at your LSRTV full race results. The field paces 2 by 2 behind the iRacing.com official pace car down the back straightaway. And as it is for all these regular season events, at the top of your screen will we be counting down via the clock. But this race begins with a 50-lap dash to the end of the stage. Bonus points available for the top 10. However much time is left on the clock from that point on, we'll race out to the end for the checkers.
Certainly will, and of course we come through turns 3 and 4 now to get this one going for tonight's round. Gotta keep an eye on those guys at the front. Wofford, Jorgensen Jr., Merchant, and Rittenauer, all possible contenders for a win here, but Rod Flag, can he break through, Evan, and see his car in victory lane tonight? Will that Pontiac be seeing that checkered flag?
Grand Prix rolls off at the inside of row number 3, and he's in a good position. The key tonight again is, and especially if you tuned in a week ago, keep that car in one piece, be competitive in the final run to the end of this stage. We're happy that you're spending your evening with us at LSRTV and iRacing Live. Green flag and a fly as we are off and away. The number 7 of Wofford to turn 1 and behind.
That was at the start finish line. Big issues there. It was off the start. I believe Ball pushes a car as they get going. 76 did not build up speed. Scott Warren gets turned there by the 48 machine, and carnage as Josh Ball it almost instigates our first wreck here as they cross the line. I've never seen that before.
Well, I did say that your winner from 1 week ago is starting in the unlucky number 13 starting position, and I mainly only say that because 13, typically a bad number, is the number that I like to go with, and unfortunately, it appeared that it was not good for the 48 machine tonight. Very slow to restart in front of him, not by a lot, but it definitely was a little bit behind everybody else. Was Scott Warren. Got going a little bit slow, and I think Ball tried to move to his outside, or at least give him some encouragement to help him down the racetrack, and that did not work. He hooked the number 76 machine around, and once they both bounced back up off the wall, it was big contact for the drivers behind.
Certainly was, of course, and that's something, of course, I don't think we really expected here. That's an unusual situation to happen. I've never seen it happen in the history of the series before. Car didn't quite get up to speed, and on that kind of shallow banking there of our tri-oval, it's very easy for it to go wrong. So, unfortunately there for them, I think it's, 17 degrees Evan on the banking at the tri-oval? Nowhere near as steep as the 30 plus degrees we have in the turns 1, 2, 3, and 4, but they'll get things sorted out. They'll get back going green again. And don't forget, this is actually 100 laps tonight, so we have two 50-lap stages in tonight's event, not the 100 minutes we've had all season long. So things are a little different tonight.
And that's a big change, obviously, because I think these drivers were just getting used to that original format. But the biggest thing is, in comparison to last week's race, we hadn't seen this at any point all season up until 1 week ago. Typically, we would see drivers come in at the end of lap number 50, complete the stage. That's when everybody would pit. And then more times than not, one more pit stop after that would also be required to be able to get to the end of the race. That no longer the case. It as of 1 week ago, because there were so many yellows in the opening 2/3 of it, we actually saw drivers have the option to, and some did, stay out at the end of the stage and were able to get all the way to the end of this race. You are not going to be able to go from lap 50 to lap 100 on fuel like you could go sometimes from lap 50 to minute marker number 100. So that's going to be a big shake-up of the standings, and the way that this race strategy is played out, different only in the sense that it's not what we've been doing. Making a transition from a very unique format back to what everybody knows is not as big of a confusing kind of deal as the original change, I think, at the beginning of the season was, but it is noteworthy to say that these drivers are going to be back on their conventional lap by lap, being able to count how many laps they can go to the end, how many laps they have on fuel, which will definitely help the crew chiefs out, I think.
Certainly will. It makes things a little bit more predictable, especially if we have a busy race, as we seem to be having tonight already. So they'll know they'll get an actual race in rather than just being run down to about 70 or 80 laps, depending on how many times they crash. But hopefully they stay clean and green, and this thing can go down in pretty quick order. But we now know that rather than just being that one guaranteed caution at lap 50, we know we are going to the end of lap 100 here, so it's going to be a long race.
And the bad news for Josh Ball is his car was completely destroyed, and it basically came to a rest. Again, they were just coming across the start-finish line. It means that he basically has to take the tow all the way around track. So that's like 4 to 5 minutes that car is basically impounded on the pit lane. So you see the number 48 machine, he's still waiting on pit road. He's already 2 laps down. He is going to have no option but to take his one and only available quick repair from this point on to the end of the race, and it is going to be a long evening for the driver who was looking to become the first person this season to maybe park at a victory lane on a back-to-back occasion. So that incident did hurt Ball. He's fallen a lap down. Also, Scott Warren, the driver who he got into, heavily damaged. They're the only drivers, though, that lose their lead lap status at all of this. They both have just been relinquished from the pit lane, and they're going to be able to get back out there. So we'll have 24 of the 26 cars who started this one on track. Also, just wanted to note that we said that Frank Basilia, Ramon Evans, nowhere to be found on the grid. Those cars are still not on the racetrack. Look like they may end up with a DNS in this one. So the official car count for the event right now sits at 26 as we get set to try it again.
Yeah, we certainly do. We'll see what will happen from this as we get ready to go round 3 and 4 now to start a lot fresher on lap number 4 here. Perhaps a little sooner than we expected a caution, but we got it, and we'll do what we can from this. No real changes at the front before that one flew, so we'll see what the restart's like this time. It was pretty tight up at the front last time round, Evan. We'll see if they can do the same this time.
And to keep an eye back a couple of rows, that's where that accordion effect and a little bit of anxious putting the foot down, if you will, on the start caused those problems. We'll see if those guys towards the back can get a little bit cleaner off of the start-finish line this time around. Green flag flies once more 4 laps complete at Daytona, and a 7 machine, the advantage by a car length to 1.
Certainly has, and a little bit back from your lead there. Things spread out a tiny bit, and it's gone single file already. But really the top 12, 15 cars there, staying very bunched up here. The outside not holding on well. And that's with Jorgensen Jr. up there on the outside. Rod Flag, Paul Savant, and Chaburko. Corey Henry and the 82 back there as well of Dan Harrington. So a very strong outside line. We should see those guys coming forwards again. In fact, they're doing just that now, Evan. The outside line really starting to make some progress. But they need to really stay hooked up for that to happen, and it's not looking quite as tight as it could be.
And the guys up front are nice and tightly packed together. You see them breaking it 2x2 out of the quarter. About 5 drivers all the way back to Spencer Preet working on the outside of the racetrack. But then from there on back, it's almost exclusively drivers on the bottom. People back of the pack, where I said keep an eye on that accordion effect, where I think they took it substantially a little bit easier on this one. Obviously, no intentions of rushing this thing. They can run this race out, if possible, to the end of what would be 100 laps. And you see battle for the race lead now. The 57 going to go to the outside of the racetrack, so side by side off to turn number 3.
Yeah, they do, and it's going forwards now as 57 looks to be making its way forwards on this one. Seth the Merchant with a good shove there by Junior. Looking up on the outside as he head through to the triangle here. It should be clear if he gets a good run through this one, but not quite enough power. Always hardest to move from the outside lane down, Evan. You've got to get so much faster. And what is essentially a longer way around this racetrack, you've got to be carrying a lot more speed. Easy to defend that low side, really. It's a passive defense down there for Rodney Wofford, but outside starting to look a little bit more communicative.
Yeah, they are working a lot better together. I mean, you can see the gap between the 1 machine and the 69. Harry Tiller, different colors on board today. Nielka Rod Flying slide down in front of him, and it's not necessarily a change for position, just reshuffling of the running order a little bit. But you do see those drivers at the outside of the racetrack go into the side draft a lot more. It's a risque move for lap number 7 at a 100-lap event that still has our 100-minute limit on it. But in theory, if a race were to go green on that 100-minute clock, we could go well more than 100 laps, so the race will not exceed that distance here tonight from Daytona. And the likes of those guys up top, Seth the Merchant, Mark Jorgensen Jr., very well versed on the Superspeedways at the iRacing service, try to make it work. But Wofford and Piscini working very well together on the inside.
Yeah, Piscini has always been one of those cars really performed well, especially with his teammates there. But the inside looking a little fragile now. We're starting to see pairs forming up here. We had Wofford and Piscini there. We had the 77 and we had the 87. 20. I'm braining really hard right now. 69, I should say, and the 3. 88 and the 57. Almost looking like the old COT era. We saw pairs of cars up there towards the front. That was unusual.
And we always see drivers trying to work together, but oftentimes, again, that pack mentality in the draft is a big part of that. Means that you really can't work just with one guy, and you kind of have to I'm not sure if let's the right word, but I guess allow some of the other drivers to join you, because there is strength in numbers in this draft package with these Gen 6 cars, the Chevrolet SS's, the Ford Fusions, and the Toyota Camrys, and you can see just how tightly packed it can get if it wants to. That inside line, sure, you got the 10 lifted a little bit. It was really tight with Jorgensen on his door that time, but these guys, for being 10 laps in, are not giving each other a lot of space. That is tight and white-knuckle racing on the inside of the racetrack.
Yeah, it really is, and they're doing some good work right now. Let's keep it this one in one piece. 10 laps in, and well, things looking pretty secure. Although Chaburko and also back there, the 21 of the days of Hedrick moving around there, following the 22. We're going to see what he can do with this as well. Harry Tiller, the English version of Brandon Chaburko up there as well. So we've got the two kind of firebrands together in this one, Evan, early on. 69 and 22 on track together. Very similar personalities and racing styles, so this could make life interesting for the boys at the front, who are a little bit calmer in nature. The 88 there, oh, look at Chaburko looking to the outside for 3 wide there for a moment as he gets behind Tiller. Sitting on the corner there as in front of him, 57 to the low side, Seth the Merchant will lead the way. The 88 of Jogs Jr. leading the outside as Chaburko's looking to cause something.
Looking to try to go 3 wide. I think he's trying to get somebody to go up there with him. I'm not sure Harry Tiller is going to be the driver who bites on that first. If you've been with us over the course of the season, you know that the 69 and the 22 machine have oftentimes found each other and have many a times made some contact with each other. At one point this season, both of those drivers has gone around off of the nose of their counterpart. So I don't expect those two to necessarily team up and make a dynamic duo. I think that Chaburko staying in line behind Tiller will help Tiller out because he would be able to sit with back of the 88. When that 22 goes high trying to make a third lane work, the 69 has no pushing help from behind. He falls back from Jorgensen, and in turn that whole outside line slows down.
Yeah, it really does. And the outside line there really has to put some serious pressure into this one as Chaburko's not... Actually, no, he was sitting up high there to kind of come down and gain some momentum to get to the back there of Tiller and push himself and Junior forwards. Hedrick kind of sitting behind him as up comes the 7 of Wofford. He wants to make something happen here. Going to hop on the elevator there with the 88 of Junior as Bassini will get up to the bumper of DeMerch and give him a push. Chaburko once again fishing for whatever his hook lands at the moment.
And move to the outside by Watford. It was very well executed. Decided to step up top, and because Jorgensen again not having a lot of help from Tiller out of the back end, because Tiller's not getting help at a 22, the 8 and the 77 were able to work together, and Watford going to go back to the race lead after Seth Burnson had passed him up originally and led a couple of laps here at Daytona. At lap number 13, that number 7 is going to go back in control of this field. Look at the 88 though. I'm not sure if Jorgensen is trying to get in line between the 57 and the 1, or if he's just really trying to get the side draft because Tiller seems to be unable to get to the back bumper right now. But Jorgensen's had a couple of close calls. A few laps ago was right on the door around a flag, and right now really crowding Bassini.
Yeah, he is, and Bassini's kind of really being forced down there by his moves as Bassini's not really trying to push the Merchant, not really being pushed by flags, so it's kind of an island for Junior there. He's got a car to side draft but nothing in front and behind. It's 3 wide with Chaburko and Tiller. That's never something I like to see. As Hedrick says, I want to help you up here to cause this horrible situation. Let's put the 22 above the 69, above the 10. That's always worked well.
And I found it interesting that Hendrick's going to go with the 22. The top side made me back it up here. Look at Watford. Race leader pulls up to slow down the outside line. And that's going to check everybody up. Look at the 22 with Chaburko now. He's all by himself on the outside. And it's not going to work. And big problems in turn 1.
That's the big one there, Evan. We had it finally, and I did say this was going to end badly, and once again, the Rich White prediction is exactly true. 4 wide we had there into turn number 1, and surprise, surprise, 4 into 3, it doesn't work. 4 into 2 works even less well, as the cars rack and stack in turn number 1. Big one of the night on lap number 15.
And it was an issue with the 57 and the 88. That kind of forced what was a 4-wide situation. Chaburko would have been absolutely okay if they were 3 wide, but then you had Flag come up just a little bit, Jorgensen moved up just a little bit, and Chaburko was moving down just a little bit into the corner, and it was just that combination of those little very minor movements by all 3 drivers in that 3 wide that lined the 22 up with a front right bumper of the 88 of Jorgensen, hooked him around, and again the whole racetrack basically was blocked. Jorgensen was probably going to get away with this thing. He and the 77 of Cozy were clear on the inside, but Harry Tiller, who got hit by Chaburko as he tried to avoid him, slid back down the hill, tagged those 2 cars, and about doubled the size of the accident as Berger got a piece of that second group as well.
Yeah, certainly did. That was a bit of a big junk on the banking there as I know what for these guys to go. To get into that sort of situation, it ends up being just a mess of cars. Nowhere really you can respond. Only option you can do is try and go to the low side, but when cars are basically self-cleaning off that banking, Evan, and going low, kind of blocks the only escape route. So it ends up being one of these, well, crap, we're in it sort of situations.
So let's see, I would assume drivers are going to be headed pit side this time. That first caution flag out came so early, literally right at the start, that it made no sense for drivers to pit other than, of course, the folks who were involved in the accident and needed service repairs. These guys can't go much further than, as we've said a couple of times, 20 some odd laps. So here they are. Watford going to bring us down. He's got a very good chance of maintaining the race lead in this thing because he's going to head down all the way to the number 1 pit stall via that pole position.
Certainly is, and we should probably expect to see 2 tires on this sort of stop. It's maybe 15, 17 laps in here. We'll see what the guys do. We're looking at left side tires. I'm going to guess, as I know Flag's taking lefts, Bassini's taking rights, Tiller taking lefts, and everyone seems to be going for the 4 tires for the 1, 4 tires for the 7. There's going to be some shuffling around here and some 2 tire choices. Put these guys in interesting positions, and this could be an interesting strategy break. 4 tires has never really been necessary, Evan.
Right, we've seen basically 2 tires be the call all season, and at any other racetrack you go with right side tires, but at Daytona the wear is a little bit more balanced, so you'll see somebody come in the first time they get fuel to go right side, second time they come in they'll get only left sides, and that way you're kind of getting all the tires fixed. But yeah, the first 2 drivers down pit road, Roddy Watford and Chris Bassini, decided to take 4 fresh tires, and actually the majority of the field decides to make that same call. The drivers who roll the dice are out in front now, Rod Flag and Daniel Holloway, although I believe the number 26 machine's got a good amount of damage, so he'll be probably headed back pit side, which would leave Ray Rittenauer in control of the field if he decides to stay out. But Rachel, that 87 machine actually missed his pit stall in the Race City Warehouse Chevrolet, so I expect that he has to pit, not just on the basis of tires, but on the basis that he needs fuel. So he'll probably come down and pit. I assume that the damaged car out in front, Holloway, is going to come into pit, which means really the only driver who took the 2-tire call was Rod Flag, because the 10 should, if those 2 pit, become the race leader. The 87, though, does not. He did not lead the last time by, so maybe Rittenauer figures I'll stay out an extra lap, at least get that 1 bonus point, and then come down pit road. But again, the 87 missed his stall on pit road.
Yeah, certainly did, and the 87 not in a great position with that one, but at the same time, it's going to shake him down the order a little bit. That couldn't be, might not be a bad thing. It might not be what he wanted, but sometimes it's a little safe a little further back in these things, and as we saw just there, yeah, safe is where the 22 and the 69 are not going 4 wide into one of the corners.
20 drivers at the moment are scored on the lead lap. We'll take a quick opportunity to step aside, and when we come back to the Daytona International Speedway, we'll be at 1/5 distance tonight, the 9th race of the season, and we'll continue to work our way through the night from Daytona Beach. You're watching LSRTV's continuing coverage of the Superspeedway Cup Series on iRacing Live. Ray Rittenauer, your race leader at lap number 18. Welcome back live to Daytona Beach, Florida. Lights out on top of the iRacing.com official pace car, and we are getting set for a restart. 2 caution flags early on here tonight from the Daytona International Speedway in this 9th race on the Superspeedway Cup Series Season 15 campaign. And we did see eventually the 87 written down as noted, and you saw it on LSRTV nonstop. Had to come down to the pit lane. He had missed his pit stall the first time down, needed fuel on board, and he is now going to drop all the way to the back, which puts Rod Flag, the lone driver, at least up front, on the 2-tire call to the race lead from Daytona, looking for his first win on the season, which would buy himself an automatic ticket into the playoffs, which is only a little over a month away. Pace car down, 19 laps complete. It's gone by, 81 laps to go from Daytona on laps. Green flag back in the air. 50 lap opening stage at this point. We cannot make it to the end. Keep that in mind as we race to turn 1.
Yeah, 30 laps in this stage, which means, yeah, it's going to be well outside that margin by about 5 to 10 laps. So you'll have to consider that one, and we'll see what will come from this strategy-wise. But outside line lagging back here on this start is Flag and Pasini. Pasini abandoning him early on for his teammate there, and Flag going to be, well, losing momentum dramatically. Pasini will not clear him though for turn number 3, but he'll get a good run along the outside and great momentum built.
And I thought that because of that big gap you saw behind the 10 machine, that one might have had a good chance of clearing him off into the turn, but the 01 machine of Travis Brown really picked up the slack and closed himself in. And now the inside and the outside lanes work fairly even off to turn number 1 once more. Passini's got a good push behind him. It's Rodney Watford, but a couple of names just now get it into this. Levine, Hedrick, and Berger up inside the top 10. Continuing down the back. Oh, a little bit of contact that time for second. It's Brown on the inside. Passini really aggressively getting on that side draft as he tries to make a play for the race lead. That could have been very bad because that one just tagged him in the right rear quarter panel, and we've seen many a time something like that happen this season, which has led to big time issues. But it looks like that everybody's going to be okay, and the fight will continue side by side, really for second and side by side for fourth. Rodney Watford, the number 7 machine, over the radar right now with the 14 to Justin Levine. They're also getting pretty close to one another, and is Brown going to make a play for the race lead? He will. He's going to leave Rod Flag. Flag with no drafting help now at a quarter number 2, and it's going to be an easy push for the 01 Ford to the lead down the back straightaway. He is clear in turn number 3, not yet though, committing to make a move to the inside. There's Brown maybe trying to bring that number 1 machine, the rookie of Passini, the Pennzoil Chevrolet, with him. If he wanted to go to the bottom, doors wide open. It's been wide open since turn 3, and I think he's going to be forced to go down, and he is. He really wanted to stick with the 1. He was clear by turn 3. He stuck with him all the way through the exit of the tri-oval, but eventually Rod Flag, now being pushed by Levine, started to get that momentum back, and I think Travis Brown had no decision but to drop down to the inside of the racetrack. And leading the race is the obvious objective, but when you're the lead car on the bottom, you're kind of a sitting duck. You can't do much. Now Brown's fate is in the hands of the car behind him. Reliant that Flag is able to give him a good push, and reliant on how good Chris Passini is on the outside of the racetrack if he himself makes a play for the lead. And here comes the 01, shutting the door, making sure that none of that happens on his way. Dividends, because now he has quite the run up on the outside of the racetrack. It has really been able to keep that second row in this thing as they head now back down once more to the Daytona Super Stretch. The 9 drivers immediately in this thing are in the lead pack, but Dan Harrington and Chris Passini, tip of the cap to them. Also Mike Thiel, Spencer Preet, and even Tommy Hall, which might be a little bit more of a stretch, but those back 5 or so cars had initially lost touch with this 9-car breakaway up front, and they have now been able to draft themselves back into this, almost doubling the size of the lead pack now up to 15 cars. It looks like 14 going to be within a couple of seconds of each other for the entire lead pack. And what that means is that you're going to have a lot less room up towards the front of the field. The 21 going to go bottom to the top. Glenn Hedrick going to join the outside movement, and it's very difficult for Piscini to be able to throw a block on that. We saw a couple of drivers do it, go up, stunt the momentum to the outside of the racetrack, but just not an option that time. And easy peasy to the race lead for Travis Brown, back to the point at lap number 27, as we've now crossed the halfway point in the opening stage of this race, as we run to lap number 50. Again, first and foremost, top of the screen, 100 laps, that's the end of the night, but the race to lap number 50 is the end of the stage, and we're past halfway there.
Certainly are, Evan, and halfway there is going to be kind of a good one for the race to look at. We know they have to stop one more time before this halfway point, so whether that's under green or under caution will really dictate how things go at the end of this stage. If it's under green, we can really envisage maybe 4 or 5 cars running to the end of this thing.
See the 7 machine again kind of in a very difficult position up top. Wofford, it's kind of funny to say that the guy leading the outside's in a top spot, but it doesn't have any immediate help. We got the 21 machine there now, the 22 at Jaburko there as well, but there's not enough cars. We do have that increased number, as I said, 10 drivers now within a second of the race leader. Preet, Monsivais, a couple more drivers towards the back still in this thing, but there's still separation. Look at Jaburko and look at the 21 of Hedrick right now, struggling to get some momentum, and Brandon Jaburko just lost the engine at a turn number 2. The driver, who maybe out of anybody else had been single file, more so because he had been moving up to the outside of the racetrack trying to make a third lane work, lost the engine down the back straightaway, and that may be it for the snap-on Ford Fusion. Was not expecting to see that, but you saw it just as I did. All of a sudden, black smoke coming out of the back of the driver who has already successfully parked that car in victory lane here at Daytona this season, already secured a spot in the playoffs, so it's not the end of the world for Chubbhart, but obviously not what he needed, because even if he can get a tow back to the pit lane to get that car fixed, he's going to be multiple laps down, and for all intent and purposes, he is done, and he is done. That car has been taken behind the wall, and Brandon Jaburko's night will end early before lap number 30. In the meantime, how about 3-1 for the race lead? Does it work? Oh, there goes the 21! Hedrick sideways, and he'll take the field with him. Glenn Hedrick had finally cracked the code and made that third lane work. He had support at a number 57 machine, finally found somebody to go with him. The help came from Seth the Merchant from a lap down, and it looked like just too aggressive of a dive to the inside of the racetrack by Hedrick. He was clear. He wanted to get down before that 7 got back up on him, and that car, you could immediately watch it lose traction, spin back down the hill over the nose of the 01 machine, and I think the only drivers who survived that was maybe Josh Ball in second and Rodney Wofford up in front. Other than that, about 50% of the cars behind that fight for second junked, and you're taking a look at some second views of that one as issues strike for the third time in this race, that one right at lap 30. Damage. If he's looking for a weight buy, going to have to wait a little bit longer, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to get it, which means that he would be able to reassume his proper position on the racetrack after he serves what appears to be an end of the longest line penalty.
Yeah, he does, and
one not for points, which means that into tonight he is not locked in based on points. Is in rather on points, but not locked in based on wins. I don't think that for somebody like Rodney Wofford, who is so consistent, somebody I think who, when it comes down to the points more importantly than anything else, is basically here night in and night out, that not getting a win would be of concern to him. But at the end of the day, it's a race, and no drivers like being satisfied with a good points day. They'll take it, they'll keep their head held high, and they'll move on to the next week. But I don't think many people show up, especially to Superspeedway racing in particular, and say, you know what I really want? I want to get a solid points day. I want to battle up front and then get a 10th. 10th is good. 10th to get bonus points at the end of the stage. 10th to get a lot of points at the end of the race. But Wofford, just like everybody else, is a competitor. And the longer that these weeks go on and the more wins that get racked up by different drivers, the more, I think, aggravated those guys without wins who expect themselves to win are going to get.
yeah, absolutely, and it's going to put themselves in a very difficult position where they become frustrated, and racing frustrated is never going to be the safe way to race. So they put themselves in a worse hole where they make more mistakes and don't perhaps do the right thing. So again, this is one of those situations where you come across form, and I'll talk about that very briefly. I know we're coming back to green this time, but when you are not on form, trying to win is impossible. When you're on form, winning is the easiest thing in the world. Performing well is easy, but you can't just switch on form, you can't just switch it off. It's one of those things that just comes, it flows and ebbs. You've got to really practice, you've got to just get yourself into a good mood, good vibes, and that's what gets these guys into that sort of position where they can win these races and get these great results. And if you're not in that right headspace, it's never going to happen.
The context in this one, 1/3 distance overall, but a race start with 16 laps to go in the race to end stage number 1. If you're not inside of the top 10, you might as well be in 21st position. Those are the only folks who get a bonus point as we race to the end of the stage. We are good on fuel to that point as the green flag flies once more, and we put our third caution on the night behind us, racing back off to turn number 1. Pretty even race start for the inside and the outside of the racetrack. Bottom a little bit more tight though, should help him in the center.
Certainly should. There's a big lurch out front there by Wofford as he gets a nice clear run ahead. 12 and 1 there, getting side by side there up front, and things are a little bit shaken around by this cycling through. The likes of Travis Brown just in the lineup there. Spencer Preet, Jimmy Coleman, Monster Vice, Berger, Holloway. So it's definitely moved things around a bit. Some of the big names are a bit further back now, but they've been giving themselves that reason. Of course, some of our big boys are out of this one, which is definitely going to be troublesome for their chances to win this race. But if we look at who we've still got in this one, we could definitely see ourselves getting another first-time winner in this, maybe.
If we would, it would be, I think we're already at a series record, so it would become a series record to be where we sit already with consecutive different race winners. We have not said somebody's name in victory lane twice this year at all, both points and non-paying points events combined. And as we watch the battle for the lead down the back straightaway shootout, as always, the I-5 bonus is in effect tonight. Top 5 finishers from 1 week ago have an opportunity, if they go to victory lane the week prior, to get a $5 bonus. If nobody claims that, the $5 will be added week in and week out. So tonight's I-5 bonus sits at $20. You can identify as I-5 bonus drivers by the orange banner on the top of your screens. And the reason that popped into my mind is because Rodney Wofford, who is leading this race, along with Josh Ball, Seth the Merchant, Glenn Hedrick, and Gary Champion, are your I-5 eligible drivers tonight. So that's even more incentive for Wofford to get the win, not only to punch his ticket into the playoffs, but also to walk away $20 richer.
Who doesn't want that? Of course, we get a bit of a fan out starting at the front here as up top. The 1 there, getting a bit shaky. Travis Brown going high to come back down again with a 72 behind the retreat. Losing a bit of speed they had there, but they might get some work here with Piscini as he gives them a shove forwards. Look at that overspeed. They start moving forwards very rapidly here. Brown's got to keep it in kind of one piece here. This lane can stay together. It's kind of staying a bit wavy right now, and they had a huge run there, huge head of steam, Everton, but it's just dropped off.
And really on the outside of the racetrack, that's what it does to you. We're talking about nearly 3 stories of 30-plus degrees of banking at Daytona. And that's why the inside's such a good place to be on a restart. It is a shorter way around track, but I think more than anything else, when these cars aren't up to speed, the top side, you have to go up that hill. It kills your momentum, and that's what you saw there with the 01 to 72 and the 1. They just lost more speed into 3, but watch them out of 4. Look at the 14 and the 01 to Bashina. Even, and now the 01 gets that big run. Wofford knew that was coming. He didn't have to wait to see Brown get the run. He knew that those guys were going to get that power down coming off of the banking, anticipated it, moved up, blocked the top of the racetrack, and a very well executed move from the 7.
Very well executed, of course, and they're doing well controlling this one there as 72 of Preet goes up to the top and out the way as the 1 will come through. Monster Vice sitting at a great spot, as is Levine there, and the 78 behind them of Coleman sitting pretty on the inside there. 26 as well. Holloway coming up on the inside with Andrew Berger. As this one's kind of staying filtered out here. We could definitely see Wofford holding on to this if things go the way I think they might. Not quite seeing the strength on that front lane as there. He gives him a pull-up and then he drops the lane. Of course, it's not blocking Evan. That is him pulling the outside lane forwards, giving the momentum, then dropping off which kills that momentum. It stops the run they had, which kind of resets them into a position. So, tactical racing from Wofford, he could be looking at a stage win.
And look at the Wonder Machine. He's going to give up on Travis Brown. Brown pushed up the racetrack in turn number 2. And the Wonder Machine, Chris Passini, said, I'm only going to chase you so far. He goes to the inside. The order to Travis Brown, dropping it back on the outside of the racetrack. I would say, coming to 10 laps to go in the stage, this isn't necessarily the time of the race that I would recommend dropping back. It's definitely a strategy that we see people implement. They don't want to be up in the fray early, decide, hey, it's safer for me to back off, save my race car, and hang out a couple of seconds off of the lead pack. Not really what Travis Brown did there. He's still in this lead pack. He's now working on another charge. Looks like Jimmy Coleman on his back bumper helping him back up. But now you're going to start to see, ironically enough, drivers maybe even get single file in the next couple of laps is the way it typically goes. And then, with about 3-2 laps to go in this stage, assuming we're still green at that point, it break wide open again. That 7 Wofford, you've been seeing him controlling to both lanes. That's not something that we're not used to seeing, but he is going to be a lot more protective than a typical person would be at lap 41 in a 100-lap race because of the stage points on the line.
Absolutely, and it's something he really wants to consider for this championship. He's in a great position to really do well this season, and Wofford's been on fantastic form. Passini's coming here, though. He'll be a real threat. Passini is a teammate, though. But at the same time, they're going to have to be very careful not to get too close to each other. We don't want too many more problems, but those guys are definitely one of the more organised teams that we see. Race Fan Racing, of course, doing an incredible job, and it's great to see what they do here as they go past Rod Flag, who is now down a lap, but it's going to be pretty coordinated. They're going to sit here and they're going to hold both lanes as they are doing. He's not trying to pass him. He's actually easing off there a little bit, locking at that front row and keeping this one a race fan 1-2 for now, so they can decide this one between themselves a little bit later on.
Travis Brown not happy about that one over the radio. The best that the Wonder Machine can do is give the one no option. Push him. And I promise you, he's going to keep going. You do have strength in numbers on the outside, though. Coleman, who worked with the 01's, been up there. The 24 of Andrew Berger, the 4-time series champion, is right up there, up at the outside of the racetrack as well. Do we see a third line, maybe? We saw the 21 make it work. The move to the bottom wasn't necessarily as precisely executed as he would have liked it. Ended up to that big rank you saw in turn 3, but it showed us if you get 2 cars with momentum and go to the outside, you can make it happen. Maybe Coleman and Berger forced to do that. We'll see. Or, just as the one took over from Brown, maybe Brown leaves the Wonder Machine in front of him, tries to force him out 3-1 and take the spot for himself.
I mean, call me critical right now, Evan, but the 01 and the others behind them haven't been hooked up enough, I think, to make a third lane work. You know, they need to get a couple of cars really dialed in up there, work together and push around, but it's just not quite as organised when they try and draft as it is on the low side. They're just moving around a little bit and it's just killing that speed.
And they remain door to door, and what that does is, again, basically a stalemate. Brown can't go anywhere if they stay too wide. Justin Levine really can't go anywhere unless he backed off and essentially sabotaged the inside. If he's anywhere near the accelerator, the draft is going to keep him up at the back bumper of the Sabbath, and that's going to keep the Sabbath machine up on the front row. So the 14 just kind of has to deal with where he's at now. Unless the outside were to drop back and he could slot up a little bit, he's kind of made his bed and he's going to have to deal with it. 5 laps to go in the stage. Next time by the start-finish line, 20 drivers on the lead lap. Only half of them are going to get bonus points.
Yeah, certainly are. And this is getting a little congested here, this top pair. I think we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cars here in this top group, and it's getting a little busy. People are getting a little impatient behind these 2 race fan, or the race fan roadblock, I think we're going to call it for now. Because they're running like highway patrol cars right now with a rolling roadblock here. All they need is those flashing lights on top of their cars, and they'll have this one dialed in. Maybe a black and white paint job, perhaps.
And now you're starting to see that side-by-side get pretty thick. 4 on the outside, 4 on the inside, and the undecided driver in 9th is Preet, who is not quite sure who he wants to go with quite yet. If it's going to commit to the inside or the outside, he's going to make a choice soon because Tommy Hall is getting a good push by Glenn Hedrick, who just had a wrecked race car trying to battle for stage points. At the end of it, Preet is going to commit to the outside. Looks like the 29 of Hall is going to go to the bottom, and Hedrick going to go to the top. Sideways, Travis Brown out of shape, 4 wide in the corner, and they're going to hang on after that Ford got all kinds of loose.
3 wide there as they try and get this all sorted out, but big props there to Year 1 for holding on to that thing there. That could have been a huge mess, but everyone holds on and gets themselves filtered down. Everyone's a little patient, and it's kind of really cost them a lot of racetrack time here as it's the 7 and the 1 now. The 1 struggling for speed because he's on his own now up at the front, but he should be able to hold on here with that side draft. At least stay with those guys. Oh, problems.
Gathering as the one machine of Piscini's into the outside wall. More drivers, and there's the caution flag. The 26 of Holloway back up on track. It looks like Berger's going to be involved in this one. Coleman going to be involved as well. And it comes to 3 laps to go. That will end the run to the end of the stage. After that, all broke out down the back straightaway, ironically enough. Happened up in front of that 26 of Holloway. We saw a little bit of a breakaway up front. The number 1 machine got just a little bit of piece of that 14 machine. Hooked Levine around after Levine pushed up in the slightest. They ended up in fence, and for the moment we were okay because Piscini stuck on that wall. Unfortunately, Levine spun back down and he tagged Holloway, and those cars are the ones that ended up back on track. Josh Ball is junk, Spencer Preet as well.
So it will be, and this will be our stage end here. So it's a couple laps early, but this all crosses over that point, and well, Rodney Wofford with the stage points for this one, and kind of resets the whole field, pulls everyone back in together here. And if we look at this one, Ray down second, Seth the Merchant, Holloway, Piscini, a bunch of these guys back up here in the running of this one, so it's going to really move things around. Hedrick up to 3rd place after that crash. He got through nicely unscathed. Tommy Hall as well up to 2nd place, 3rd place, sorry. So we're definitely changing this one around, but we're going to have to see how this one unravels. Everyone, though, going to be probably coming for forward fuel on this stop.
And if you're Rodney Watford, what's more important, the win in the stage or the fuel? Because unlike at the end of a race where we would pace out to the end, this is a regular pit cycle. Pit road is open, this time by under caution. Coming to 2 laps to go in the stage. The 7 thinking about it, and he will go to pit road. Montsevice is going to jump out, and Montsevice is going to win the stage. Just like that. The 7 will pit, though. Anybody else who follows him is going to be able to get fuel, but it looks like he got duked out because everybody else inside of the top 10 wants those stage points, and the 1 is going to be, or rather the 7, sorry, is going to be in the best position on fuel here, but he is going to get no points for the stage because he pitted with still 2 laps to go before we got to lap 50.
This is interesting. Wow. Didn't see that coming. I thought everyone had pitted, it'd be the stage, but I thought everyone would come down 2nd or 3rd lap at a pit cycle and actually do that start. Maybe these guys will do just that, but great decision by Brandon Cruz on Survivor to stay out and grab himself a stage win out of nowhere.
And if everybody was in agreement, in a perfect world, everybody would stay out, complete lap 50, and then they would all pit. The problem is, again, pit road's open now, so you're going to have somebody from the back undercut them anyways. I don't think Watford was going to pit, but Brandon Cruz Montsevice looked pretty committed, and that was a smart move by the LSRTV Chevrolet because he was so far to the inside that it looked like he was all but guaranteed and committed to coming down to the pit lane. He was way over on the left, so you saw Watford make that late dive to his left-hand side, and then you saw the 54 jump out, and everybody else followed him. So this time by 1 lap to go in the stage, stage points are awarded after the drivers cross the start-finish line at the completion of lap 50. We are pacing at the moment on lap number 49. So Montsevice would have to stay out 2 more times around it. Race control is just reminding these guys at the moment that, hey, we are not going to extend the caution. So these folks, Rachel, may not have an opportunity to pit at all because they can't pit coming the next time around. You have to go to the start-finish line first. And if the lights go out the next time by, congratulations, you got 10 bonus points, but you're going to be out of fuel in 7 laps.
Yeah, you are, and it's, well, I mean, he's not come down once already, so he can't come in and later on in this because the pits will actually be closed for him. So he's got to hope for a very quick caution to hold on to this one, but perhaps thinking something more will happen later in this race where he can get it back again. And with other drivers staying out, he's not in a bad position because they'll have to come and pit too. So it won't be a position where he has to pit on his own and loses the lead lap. I think he'll stay there, but he'll be back down the order and there will be at least one more caution. So not the worst strategy.
Watford is going to end up with some points. He was able to convince some other folks to come down and pit with him. Watford is 8th position, Seth the Merchant is 9th, and Scott Warren is 10th, although some of those positions I think need to cycle through. Not sure if the Merchant's going to be able to maintain that spot. He pitted the last time by and kind of abandoned all hope, so maybe Champion is going to end up getting some points in this thing. Champion did pit when the pit lane opened originally. So Watford is going to get some points, assuming he maintains that positioning and assuming that everybody in front stays out. And maybe that's the better call. If you are, in a position like Brandon Bonsevice, he has a win this season. He doesn't need points. Okay, the only thing that can help him at this point is another win, which would give him more playoff points headed to the playoffs. You get playoff points for each win you have. That would help him. Don't see the advantage, in all honesty, of winning the stage as opposed to making the long-term call. Somebody like Watford, I thought they would have made different calls. Here we come down pit road, though. Tommy Hall's going to pit. Hedrick stays out, and now some drivers are going to cross the start-finish line, Rachel, on track, and some are going to cross the start-finish line on pit road. So the stage positioning as the end of the stage is Bonsevice first, Hedrick second, Rittenauer third, Reagan fourth, and Watford in fifth, with Hall P6, Brown P7, Preet in 8th, Champion in 9th, and Seth the Merchant in 10th. And the lights are now out on top of pace cars, so we saw some drivers still get some points by crossing the line under pit road. Bonsevice stayed out to get the stage win, and everybody else who stayed out with him gets no opportunity to pit. So that was a lot going on, and I hope we made it as easy to understand as we could, but that was a very tricky yellow cycle to the end of the stage. At the end of the day, Bonsevice is the one getting the 10 points.
It is, and that's a huge thing for him and his championship hopes, of course. That'll be a great one for him. So, well, though I don't think you're going to be running out of playoff spots of non-winners with how many unique winners we've had this season, so it's going to have to be a case of you win to get in this case, and we are running out of those places, so you'll have to try and think of a way to find that happening on the racetrack. But for now, great spot to be in.
So now we get a restart past the halfway point once things get underway, or if we find ourselves with another caution flag, we'll make sure to take a look top to bottom at your LSRTV full race results. But in the meantime, we have a restart due up. 51 laps going to be complete, so we will take 49 laps to go, just a little bit. With 47 minutes left on the clock, still in a position where we can go the distance, or dependent on yellows, this race could end under the clock. The pace car is going to go down and away this time. Let's see what Brandon Bonsevice can do. He's assumed the race lead, but he might not get it at the stripe. Outside, better start, barely. Glenn Hedrick at the line. The 54 will pull, though, back to turn 1.
He said he will, and that was a big move there by Hedrick. Great start by him, and only him in the 46 there holding on at this point. So Richard Regan Jr. going hard there, but not enough, as the 54 will pull it back with Rittenauer and Watford. Big powerhouse cars behind him. Should be inside line advantage there versus the two on the outside, but they're side drafting them hard.
That's what you have to do on the outside. They don't have the strength in numbers. They don't have the 4 or 5 cars like they typically do. There's a pretty big gap. I think that Seth the Merchant in 6 is going to be able to catch up. Maybe the 77 to Cozy, and then looks like Champion, followed by Patton, going to be able to catch up. But other than those top left,
and that's going to be surprisingly unusual. We could look for a green one here, which means these guys are going to have to come in about, what, 7 laps, I think, at this point, 7?
yeah, you're going to be able to make it close to that window. I think that at the end of the day, and he walked it a little bit too far down the hill and ended up getting loose because of that. But either way, he lost his spot in line, and there was no mercy on behalf of the 7 Watford, who immediately filled that spot. The 46 of Reagan just kind of nonchalantly followed through, and all of a sudden you go from being in a pretty surefire spot, P2. Now that we are running down to the end of this thing, past the halfway point, working to the end, you're getting a better idea of where your fate is. That drivers would get a little bit more aggressive, but maybe they're heeding to our typical advice, which is, hey, if you are not complete with your pit stops for the night and you do not have fuel to make it to the end, there's no reason to wreck the race car. With the 18 guys scored on the lead lap, the top 7 have broken away, only 2 of which aren't on the bottom, but even those two, Harrington and Piscini, not having any luck starting the second lane. Have a pack working together. You're talking sometimes an upwards and almost double-digit difference in miles per hour. You talk about the pole position time in this race. Watford put down a 48.3 by himself. His last lap was a 45.7. That's nearly 3 seconds faster in the draft. So you need help, and the leader is actually working with a lot of lap traffic now from all those folks who stayed out and had the pit.
Yeah, it really is, and that will make things a bit interesting for them here as they're going to come up on those cars that did pit. Can they stay ahead of him? That's the question. They are running a lot heavier here, so they will actually have theoretically would have had a speed advantage if they stayed hooked up and moved, but they're going to split him. That's not a great decision, guys. What are you doing? That was not a great call there. If you wanted to basically... if you wanted to basically let the leaders go through, you both go to one side. You don't go one to each side and form a chicane on the racetrack, forcing them 3 wide through the middle. That's just not racing etiquette.
It is a super speedway, and nonetheless, they did complete the move out of 21, but if everyone can't get by, he's not very happy about that, and it's a strategic move by Hendrick because he'll kind of blend into this lead pack and should be able to maintain the lead position of cars 1 lap down, which means that if a caution were to come out, he would get an automatic lucky dog. He wouldn't have to neglect coming down to the pit lane or anything like that. He'd just be able to get back to the lead lap. That's a very well sought after spot. Richard Reagan Jr. is guilty of the same thing. You see the 46 machine, that blue and black Ford, he's in the same position. Neither he nor that 21 are battling with these guys for position, but they are fighting amongst themselves for 15th, which is first spot 1 lap down.
Yeah, it is, and it's good for if we're going to go wave around if they get a caution, but it's going to be interesting with green flag feeling to this section. We'll have to see. I mean, we're looking at not a lot of time left in this one, so looking at maybe 1 more stop after this cycle for your cars in the lead lap.
And you can see up at the top of your screen, we put the clock up there for reference. Again, this race could end based on that time, or it could end based on laps. Either or at this point. Last time by, 39 laps to go. If this race stays green, we will end on laps. So just keeping you up to date on both ends of the spectrum as far as how that is going to play into the strategy as well. It might only be a difference between running out that time or running out the lap counter. Might only be 4 or 5 laps difference the way how close this is at the moment, but that could be the difference between making it on a fuel strategy call and not making it. So we'll do our best to keep you posted on that as this race goes on, but starting to work ourselves deep into this second run of the race now, and with all the separation up front, and especially because we saw so many drivers pit 14th through 20th are all 1 lap down. Those are cars who pitted because they stayed out to take the stage points. We only have a 10-car lead pack, which means that really nobody should be overdriving it at the moment, and I think that this, ironically enough, may be your only chance tonight to take a deep breath, think things over, and get prepared for the mad dash that is yet to come.
Oh, and there's going to be a mad dash in this one, I guarantee it. We are going to get to the caution before this one ends, I think, and it's just going to be how that one plays out, Evan, because depends on who it takes with it, because we could see ourselves putting a car that's not won yet into a position to win, or we could see those guys survive and maybe get our first repeat winner in this, which looks plausible considering the cars we have up front, but at the same time, anything can happen in Superspeedway Cup. We know that happens, and it's going to always be exciting.
So as we noted, past the halfway point in this race, let's take this opportunity to take a look at our iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you by iRacing, the leading online racing simulation developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service. iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the globe. And in the fast-paced world of esports, iRacing is a one-stop shop for online racing, with officially sanctioned series by the likes of NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, and many more. At lap number 65, Rodney Wofford, your pole sitter, leads the way in front of Seth the Merchant and second, Chris Piscini, who runs in third. Michael Cozy Jr. scored in the fourth position with Dan Harrington in fifth. Chris Patton runs P6 with Rod Flagg in seventh. Paul Servant in eighth. Gary Champion in ninth, and at the back, Jimmy Coleman in 10th, rounding out that lead pack.
11th place at the moment is Mike Field with Scott Warren and Harry Tiller in 13th place. Last car on the lead lap there. Behind him, Glenn Hedrick, Brandon Kuzman Vice running with that lead pack there. Rearing out a second as well up there as well. And Richard Reagan Jr. and he's in Ronald there for a second. Travis Brown in 17th place. Tommy Hall, Daniel Holloway, our last of your cars, one lap down. Spencer Creek still running 2 laps down in the 21st place. Justin Ryan is on.
Through all of that, a lot going on track. Again, though, not for position. Rachel, lap cars high, lap cars low. And as this lead pack was trying to work 2 by 2, led to a couple of close calls.
Yeah, it really has. We've had some moments, especially that chicane we had at the back straight that time, that really made a kind of a hairy moment. But Piscini out front with Wofford. It's the race fan racing roadblock starting up again here, as they're in control of this pack. And Seth the Merchant's been quietly following this lead group. He's been up there all race long, really, Evan. Always going to be a contender in these things, and perhaps could be the formula to beat these two.
Monster Vice is going to slot in line behind the number 77 machine, so he takes the spot of the likes of Hedrick and Travis Brown, Reagan, some of the guys we were talking about who were occupying that lead group as to remain as the first driver 1 lap down. So Monster Vice not in a terrible position, but again, for somebody who already has a win, and the only thing that can benefit him from here on out is another win, I'm surprised that he went for the stage points, and I'm surprised that Rodney Wofford, who does not have a win and could benefit more from points, I'm surprised that he took the vice versa strategy of coming in and making sure that he was secure to the end of this race, which arguably he's leading. Monsivice is 14th and a lap down, put him in a better position to challenge for the race lead. Although I'm not on top of the pit box, I'm not making the calls, and right now both drivers still not out of this thing because a lot left up in the air as we come around this time to take lap number 70.
We do indeed, and this one's definitely moving through pretty quickly tonight, as we probably could go to the numbers on this one actually for this race. But Chris Bassini is strong, the Merchant strong, Wofford strong, cars coming through there. Harrington and Patton also moving forward. Flagg is back in a good position. He's up in 7th place after being a lap down, as is Paul Savant. 2 cars to keep an eye on in this one, as is Gary Champion with them as well. Those guys are 7th, 8th and 9th. Other cars that really could be a threat. Tiller is still there. He's running in that second pack, back in 12th, about 10 seconds back from your lead group, really. And they all need a caution to really make this happen.
And right now, it's almost just like follow the leader. The guys up front on the same strategy call have no reason to deviate. However, Seth the Merchant over the radio this time says that he's coming down pit road. If he does pit with 30 laps to go, he will not be able to make it to the end of this race, and we need to pit once more. Here they all come, though. Piscini is going to come down pit road. We're 3 wide with Wofford to the inside of the 57. Cozy down. Harrington in. Glenn Hedrick also in. Everybody clean.
Yeah, they are, and good stop for those guys. We'll see how they actually play out on this run to pit road and what they go for. Bit of congestion there as they all try and find their pit boxes. Nice and easy, though. Bit of a slide for the 57 there of the Merchant. We're seeing right side tires on all these guys. Down and away. Big out there, but the 77 won't get it. It'll be the 7. But they actually shake around there. 77 and the 1 getting well ahead there. Great run through for those boys, as Michael Cozy Jr. actually first out of that group. Huge run off for him.
And this is where things can look good for Monsivice, because again, he's already pitted. It looks like everybody else who's pitting now is still going to have to pit once more, and he might be able to make it to the end with the same amount of pit stalls at the end as they need. However, he has been out there by himself for quite some time. Yes, he was working with that lead pack, and yes, that kept him literally step for step with how fast they were going. But he wasn't with that pack forever. And as they blend back out onto the racetrack and everybody's going to cycle back through, I think you aren't going to find him at some sort of a disadvantage. Only time can tell. Good news for him, if any, is that once everybody pits, now he's behind Rod Flag, who's the current race leader. He'll get back to the lead lap and contact that time in turn 4.
Yeah, not what they wanted to have happen with that situation, but they managed to keep it in one piece. Contact, but not a huge problem. Everyone heading down pit road from that group down there. That's the guys further back, including Flag and Servant. Got the 18 and the 78 down there as well. See how their cycles go.
More drivers down pit road. Rod Flag looking to lead this group in and out of the pit lane. A clean pit stop, but do so. 4 tires has been the overwhelming call so far tonight. Hot conditions from Daytona International Speedway. You're talking about a track temp of 114 degrees. That's nearly 30 more than what it is in the air. But Rod Flag goes with 2 tires again. Second time tonight we've seen him do that. That's great because he's fast off of pit road, but he may have been too fast off of pit road, Rachel, because he left that group he pitted with behind. That's not good if he doesn't blend up, just happening to be around some other drivers.
Yeah, exactly, and that's one of the big things you really have to consider with this is if you get a great run down pit road, you get on there fast. They're faster than everybody else around you, and you manage to basically get in a great position where you could get a good stop. Fantastic. Any other track, amazing. Here, you've actually got to be a little bit slower coming off pit road so you come off with other cars, because if you end up coming off pit road broken up and split up by a decent portion, you will be in a bad spot where you cannot get the speed back.
And I think it's a bit of a stretch to say at a plate track that slow and steady wins the race, but sometimes just completely obliterating everybody else isn't necessarily the best course of action. And what that means is that obviously sometimes if you're unable to, if you're in a group that doesn't have a lot of teammates and you can't get on the radio with them, sometimes you gotta just go with the 4 tires, and if they take 2, cancel those 2 and go out. You have to take, one for the team, if you will, to stay with everybody else. What this cycle has done, it has now put Chris Piscini to the race lead, and this is interesting because he pitted, he's already been able to cycle himself through, and he's up front. Brandon Cruz Monsivice is with Gary Champion and Ray Rittenauer 11 seconds behind. So those drivers, that proves it, did lose substantial time by having to pit early. They're back on the same fuel game as everybody else. They should be able to make it to the end on 1 more stop, just like everybody else, but they have a 10-second deficit. They basically need a yellow to make that up, unless all 7 of the guys in front of them wreck on pit road and have major issues. And if not, then that car probably isn't going to be handling at peak operating conditions, although if you are really easy on it, I'm not suggesting to not take tires, because I think that the loose conditions that we've seen tonight, as you see Watford now pull a switch with Divergent, and they'll exchange 2nd and 3rd positions, but the conditions tonight definitely tell me, unlike most, if not all the races this year, Rachel, as we commented when we saw people pit for the first time, you need tires. And the couple of drivers on the radio right now talking about just how much tire they have left in this thing. The 77 Cozy not having the one to work with is going to hurt him now, because everybody's going to go topside. No love for the rookie down low, and he may go from 1st to 4th in about half a lap if they stick topside through 2.
Yeah, they do, and that's going to be great to see if this will all play out the way we expect, but it's going to be a busy run for them, as they are going to go round there, 77, nice and easy for them. This front trio just playing the game they have to play. Wofford, DeMerchant, and Piscini, although Piscini gets kind of left out to dry there. 77 kind of sits in the middle now. Didn't quite get it done through the corner there just because of the timing, but I think the winner will be one of these 4 cars.
And this race is increasingly looking more and more like it is going to end based on laps. That time by 22 laps to go again, and it's still very tight with the timing shown up at the top of your screen, but this may be the first time that a race will go full distance this season. And again, the rules modified for tonight as it had been.
First repeat winner.
Yeah, those drivers who occupy those top couple of positions, a good cheers with Richard Reagan Jr. again to be noted. And you got a second look at the replay that it was he and it was Coleman in front. It would actually a battle before that. I don't think Tiller's happy that Reagan pushed the 21 to the outside and made plays that
This is
going to a 16 car deep pack on a lead lap, getting set for a restart inside of 10 to go, but what is not guaranteed to be the final one. Now, we could get a yellow at a point in this race where we should be able to restart and the time could run out. That could happen, but this is not guaranteed to be the final restart as Tiller drops down to the pit lane and Seth the Merchant takes over the race lead. 7 laps to go from Daytona. Can he beat the streak winner already this season as the lights go on top of the pace car?
They do, and we'll see exactly what happens from this. But at the same time, it's going to be a matter of waiting to see how it plays out and do all we can do at this point. But the Merchant, Wofford, and Piscini, they're in a great place as we come back to go now, and we've got 10 minutes. This will go to the end.
The pace car is going to come in the next time by, and I believe, just based on the amount of time and so on and so forth in this thing, that if we go by the clock, this race will end if we get a caution, because you're talking about very close to 2 minutes per lap under the yellow flag, and that means that a caution would take away at least 8 minutes of what is left on the clock in this thing, and I just don't see it being able to go through that and then take it a restart. Again, nothing is guaranteed. The math is very easy for us. If this race ends when the 7 laps to go up at the top of your screen, it comes down to a white and checkered flag. But keep it in mind, this race could end in either or, but I do now think, just kind of take it at a second look, if you will, at that clock, Rachel, that this is going to be the final restart.
Yes, hopefully going to be the final restart. If it's not, when we're in real trouble.
Pace cars down. Here's how we stack them up. DeMerchant, Piscini going to be on row number 1. Ronnie Wofford and the 18 machine, as updated scoring, Gary Champion going to be on row number 2. Pace car down for what looks like it might be the final time tonight as we go green again at Daytona. 6 laps to go.
Certainly is, and we'll see how this one runs to the end. And it's a great start by the inside line there. Piscini on the outside, not as strong with the 18. The 10 drops down early. Big one to the inside for him. He wants to get down low to secure this one. Piscini dives to the inside behind 57 and the 7. He's been running with all race long. The 18's out to dry with a 77 and 46. They're going to go backwards, I think.
Falling back of the outside. Here's a play for the race lead. Ronnie Wofford wants to get his first points win on 2017. He'll get a push to the outside by Chris Piscini. Piscini, already with the win this year, does not need to put himself in a position to take a win away from a team car and should help that 7.
It should really, really, really help them, and we'll see how it does go here right now, because it's a bit of a 2-car break, but the outside's moving forwards now as it's getting to be a point where it's kind of close.
7 to try to work both lanes, goes to the outside, but he can't come back down. Piscini's on his inside, and we're going to go 3 wide from Daytona. Can this work? Here comes Cozy up through the middle for fresh tires. Reagan's going to follow him. Rittenauer's going to follow him as Harrington goes backwards on the outside.
He does indeed, as they get moving up the middle now, and this is going to be quite tight at the moment, but things are going good.
Contact for a second. Piscini just got pushed down the racetrack as it looked like the 77 to Cozy not committed up on what lane he wanted. He'll look low, he'll look high. Reagan now going to cross him over for second at 4 laps to go from Daytona. Side by side for second, and now Wofford will come back down. Doesn't have that teammate support on the bumper anymore, so he's very vulnerable to a run for the outside. Reagan tried to go high, couldn't do it. Here comes Cozy down the back. Not a huge run, but at least challenging.
Yes, it is. They're going to go for this one now, and Cozy's looking strong again. He could have a chance here. He's got Rittenauer behind him, who's a big contender in this, so we'll see what he can do. That's certainly a car to be with if you want it, and the 46 isn't pushing quite as hard as he could. This could be the story for Cozy. Could he do this thing?
Both drivers on the front row right now looking for a win, and that's going to be it. Wrecking behind. Contact, and the caution flag is out, and a photo finish as the field will be frozen. At the moment of caution, we have done this already this season. And race control at the moment scoring the 7 in the race lead, but it will require a second look. The moment those lights come on top of the pace car, the field will be frozen. Cozy saw the wreck, Rachel, behind, came down and gave a little bit of a door check to Rodney Watford, trying to slow him down. And that 7 machine may have gotten beat at the moment of yellow. Again, right now he's being scored in control, but that is far from official, and we'll work on getting you a second look. But I think Cozy might end up getting this thing based on a review. We'll have to wait.
Of course, they will actually review this secondarily as well by the Superspeedway Cup administration, so we'll see what they do with this. But that was close. That was real close, and Cozy Jr. could sneak this one somehow.
And on the stream, it's not going to look like it was even close because they touched it and then they backed off each other. But it was when they touched is when they were at their closest point. And it is very, very difficult to tell. Again, the iRacing timing and scoring showing that the 7 Rodney Watford was in the race lead. This is something that you can look at from a couple of different angles, and it will look different at each and every angle that you look at. Race control is going to take a look at it, and at the end of the day, that is the official word that matters. And any, second looks that we take is just to kind of help you all make sense of what's going on at the end of these things. But that was literally as close as you can get.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to look at it from a different angle. Thank you, iRacing. We have these abilities to go to whatever angle we want, and it's Watford's. There was no time when Cozy Jr. was actually in front of him. He was alongside almost, but he was never in front. So I think this one does go to Watford.
I'm looking at an overhead shot at the moment of yellow, and it's tied. I mean, I've got a straight line shooting from the 7 to the 77, and it might be by literally a pixel. And we're talking about, 1920 by 1080p. We're talking about a high-definition image here. And again, I'm not race control. They get the final call. But at the moment of caution, that is about as tight as you can get. And I think that despite that, it is going to be Rodney Watford taking his second win on the season, but his first points win on the year. So the streak will continue somewhat. We can say that if this holds, it will be the 9th different race winner in all 9 points paying events so far this season. Mr. Daytona, as we like to call him, won the shootout here earlier this year, and it appears that he is barely going to get the win here tonight as well.
He is, and that's going to be his first repeat win, I think, in this one. So that's going to be huge. We finally break that one, and you never know. Maybe we might see some more repeat winners in the next few races, and we could see some guys point into this thing. At which point, English again. I'm struggling. It's really late here. Brandon Cruz on Device's top 5 here today, and his stage win. I could see him putting himself in a decent point spot for breaking into that chase.
And again, we await for the official word to come down from the tower. But as it sits now, here comes Rodney Watford. First points win on season number 15. And it'll secure him a spot in the playoffs. Checkered flag. And your winner tonight from Daytona, the 21st time in his career.
Incredible run there from him, and that's going to be a fantastic way to end this one. I thought it'd be one of those 3 that would win this thing, and the fact that Cozy Jr. was so close at the end, incredible from him there, and the second points finish is incredibly good. Richard Reagan Jr. as well, sneaking into 3rd place. Fantastic points for those guys.
Solid points nights, and I think that they can't help but to think that just a little bit more. You know, if what happened? What if we would have got those extra couple of laps? What if the yellow came out a little bit sooner, came out a little bit later? I'm sure that's what Cozy's going to be thinking about, because he was in another position tonight to win a race in this Superspeedway Cup Series and may not have the opportunity to do so because a yellow flag came out on him, and the only way I can describe that is just rotten luck. But the 7 machine is going to come to the front straight away, and he's got some celebrating to do. This win once again ties him with Brandon Chiburko for the old-time series wins leaders at 21 on their careers.
Certainly is impressive when you look at it that way, Evan. It's this series, it keeps growing and it keeps exciting me and challenging views I've held with how we see Superspeedway racing. And these guys keep going out every week and they make every race different. It might be the same 3 tracks, but you know what? You can barely tell. Every race is different.
And the 7 machine, despite the fact that he's gone, make a joke out of this one, so long since winning at Daytona. Last one was in March for a points paying event, and in fact that was at Daytona circa 07. So the 7 machine has had to wait a couple of months, but he is back on top, and we'll have an opportunity to chat with him and also let you know if anything changes. As far as race control's ongoing review, they're taking a look at multiple angles of that finish at the moment of caution as we speak. So we'll take this opportunity, step aside one final time. When we come back to the LSRTV post-race show, we'll be down in Gatorade Victory Lane with whoever ends up being declared the winner tonight from Daytona. You're watching LSRTV's continuing coverage of the Superspeedway Cup Series on iRacing Live, down to Victory Lane from Daytona International Speedway in just a moment.
There are 3 different paths if you want to call yourself a world champion of sim racing. NASCAR, open wheels, or endurance racing. But no matter which one you take, you can guarantee that the journey will always be tough, which few will ever complete. The iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, the premier road racing series in sim racing, started with a new car taking center stage. Then, it was Martin Kroenke resisting any challenge thrown at him to break the 5-year stranglehold of Gregor Hutu as being world champion. These drivers and teams are not just competing for pride, they're competing for money. And with over $20,000 in prizes for each of the series up for grabs, drivers really do put it all on the line.
The NASCAR Beginner for Series, powered by iRacing, is the premier NASCAR esports series featuring the cars and tracks from the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. The 2016 campaign saw a return to the top of the mountain by Ray Alfalla as a 3-time Oval World Champion. The march to that championship was not easy, though, despite the fact that Ray Alfalla took home the most points in series history. It just also happened to be the tightest championship fight we had ever seen. These guys are set for the 2017 campaign.
The Blancpain GT Series hosts the top GT3 endurance teams in sim racing, with groups of 3 or more drivers sharing the wheel. This is a championship you can't win alone, and you need the same determination, passion and drive from your teammates to be successful. They often say that it takes just one mistake to lose a championship, and in team racing, it may not be your mistake that costs you the win. Last season, VRS Coanda Simsport won the championship by a single point. This year, who will step up to the plate?
These are the iRacing Esport World Championships, the pinnacle of sim racing competition. Catch it all season long with live coverage on iracing.com/live.
Welcome back live to the Daytona International Speedway, where Rodney Wofford just by the slimmest of margins, and I believe we'll have a screenshot up for you of the moment of caution. So as the lights came on top of the pace car, that's how close it was. After a door slam by Cozy, that's how close it was. And it looks like a tie. If you blow it up, though, and you go full screen, you can tell that barely. That is the 7 of Rodney Wofford in front, and therefore, the 7 of Rodney Wofford, we assume, is your race winner tonight from the Daytona International Speedway. Maybe that post-race review is still going on, but if I believe in the way it's gone in the past, is if anything is different with that, we will have known by now. And the way it looks is that 7 machine not only getting his 21st career win, tying him with Brandon Chiburko for the most in series history, but as well, obviously his second on the year, but his first points one. So he is the 9th different winner in all 9 of our points paying events. And he was well off on the points to begin with, but he's able to lock that ticket up, Rachel, into the playoffs.
Yeah, he really is, and it was a great one for him, and he's definitely secure now. That's one he'll really be kind of pleased with and satisfied that he can now rest and kind of really push himself and see what he does. So it's going to be a good season for him.
You could tell that he had not forgotten any of those celebration techniques. Had a lot of fun on the front straightaway after locking this thing up. And again, he looks like he will get the win, which means that he will join the likes of Passini, Jorgensen, Chiburko, Bonsevice, Coleman, and DeMerchant, who have wins. Tonight could also be a big step in the right direction for Josh Ball, but he had a very poor finishing result tonight, finished in 24th. So I believe that he will remain outside of the top 25 and will not yet get his name on the list of drivers locked into the playoffs. And then Jason Altman's was not here tonight at all, so he is not going to be able to dig himself out of a hole. That was pretty big coming into tonight. Down within, I believe he was 37th, the ball was 33rd. Ball going to pick up a bit. Altman's, if anything, is going to fall down, and typically you get a win, you're outside of the top 30. It doesn't take too much effort to get that little bit extra, but I think that if his schedule doesn't allow him to get here for a couple of more events, he's in a really tricky spot and might not make it despite having a win, which could be good news. It's bad enough as it is to say that for somebody who needs to get in on points, but at least that's the position for 2 of our championship drivers. Wofford is going to be well clear of that. He was, I think, 2nd overall in the points to begin with, so this will put him on the chase grid and the playoff grid, no doubt.
Oh, it definitely will do, and it's a great position to do that because now he can really focus on that and focus on this championship, which is something he really wants to get back into again and wants to get another one, of course, but he really wants to be in that position where he can now focus, and he now has time. There's a couple of races now where he is locked in, and that's exactly what he wanted. He's now very secure. It's not like anyone's going to get pushed out because we have that many new winners, because it could get to the point where we had so many winners, points would matter.
So we look forward now to the continuing schedule. It's something that we talked about at the top of this thing. The All-Star event is coming up in 1 week's time. That one from the Talladega Superspeedway. It is going to be an All-Star Open and an All-Star Race, kind of like tonight was with this new format with a B main and an A main in effect. That one is going to be coming up from Talladega in 1 week's time, and then we said it, I think, after we had that one rare off week a little bit over a month ago from this point, that this season is going to be going full throttle to the end. When we come back on the 13th of October, rather the 6th, I guess we'll start with, we'll head to Daytona Circa 07, the 13th at Talladega, the 20th back at Daytona right here but under the lights, and then the 27th is the final race of the regular season, back with one of our crown jewel events, the Draft Heart 300, and this thing just keeps going week for week until we get an off week at the end of November in between the 2 rounds of the playoffs, and that's what folks have to look forward to. 9 different points races, Rachel, 9 different points race winners, so the streak, in a way, continues here tonight, and we look to Talladega in 1 week's time. That is a non-points event. So anybody who's not yet in the playoffs is going to have to kind of sit around for 2 weeks before they get another shot at it.
Yeah, they are. And of course, a non-points event gives people a time just to get themselves into a position where they can relax, they can have a bit of a race and experiment with some things, try some new tactics, and see what happens.
With that, we will step aside from the Daytona International Speedway. That also wraps up our coverage here on iRacing Live this week. Happy for all of those who joined us throughout the week, and of course for our doubleheader here today at LSRTV and iRacing Live. For a full extended look at our upcoming broadcast schedule, you can go online to livesimracing.com to take a look at that. Also, the best way to stay up to date with us is by keeping up with us on social media. On Twitter, that is at LSRTV, and on Facebook, it's at facebook.com/LSRTV official. Until next time, on behalf of the entire team, help a driver into the playoffs. The march to that continues in 1 week time for the 15th annual Superspeedway Cup playoff race from Talladega. That race and every race can be found right here at LSRTV, your home for sim racing. Until next time, good night.